Welcome back to Giants Mania. Today we'll do a free agency rundown of everyone the Giants have signed. And recently, as of tonight, the Giants signed the former Tennessee Titans cornerback Adoree Jackson. They brought him in, I think, yesterday night, or maybe it was 2 nights ago now. I forget, honestly. But they signed him officially this afternoon for a 3-year, I think it was $39 million contract, which, yeah, it's a lot of money. But I'm a big fan of Adoree Jackson. I made a highlight video about him. I spent a lot of my Sunday watching him and observing him, and I was a big fan of what I saw. So I'm very happy he's a Giant. Just pray to God he stays healthy. But so we'll go through every free agent signing. Leave in the comments your reactions to all these signings. Leave a grade if you will. I think I graded each and every one of these signings. I don't think I gave an overall grade, but I will at the end if you stick around for the end. But I will say the Giants, I mean, this is crazy. I think I saw today the Giants have spent the third most guaranteed money so far in free agency, which is absolutely bizarre because honestly, just like a week ago, the Giants were like negative $8 million in cap space. Then I think they cut Zeitler, got up to $2 million. And like we're sitting there as like the 28th ranked team in cap space, and then all of a sudden the Giants go from that to the third most guaranteed money. So it's crazy how much they maneuvered the cap, and of course extending Leonard Williams definitely helped, and all that restructuring Nate Solder definitely helped as well. The Giants had a lot of like maneuvering the cap, and I give them a lot of credit. Kevin Abrams, Dave Gettleman, Joe Judge, everyone in the front office did a fantastic job. I'm very satisfied with this offseason. And look, I mean, I don't want to give out a record prediction right now, but there's no reason why this team can't win at least 9 games next year. So I don't know what Daniel Jones is going to be. That's like the biggest question. We all have to pray he takes a big step next year, because if he does, then this team could be very good. But still got to see it first. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but I am optimistic based on what I've seen this offseason and even last offseason. I mean, the draft has not happened yet, and if the draft goes about as well as free agency did, this team will be in a very good position. So I'm satisfied right now. I'm happy. I'm once again going to give my grade at the end, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and let's get into it. So I'm going to try and go in order of when these guys were signed, and I'm pretty sure Devontae Booker was the first guy signed here. So I'll admit straight up, this is my least favorite signing of them all, and I only gave it a C. I wasn't being too hard on this. I probably could have went lower, but it was a bad look. I'm not going to lie. The Giants, of course, as I said at that time, not a lot of cap space. The first day of free agency, we all had high expectations. We all wanted Leonard Williams to get extended and maybe sign a big-time free agent wide receiver. And the Giants do the unthinkable and draft, or not draft, but they sign a backup running back for Saquon Barkley. And I guess this means the end of Wayne Gallman, essentially. Dion Lewis was on a 1-year deal, so I get it. You needed a guy to back him up, but Devontae Booker is a guy that you could have probably waited for. They gave him 2 years at $6 million, I believe. And look at the contract here. It's not all that bad. I mean, of course, they're going to pay him this year. Next year, if they cut him, they could save $2 million. Actually, they can get out of it and basically save, $2.5 million, which is not that bad. So, I mean, it's not the worst contract in the world. But when you have a backup running back at a $2.5 million cap hit, I personally feel like that's unnecessary. You can definitely draft a running back in round 5, 6, 7. I don't think the Giants have a 5th round pick, but even round 6 or 7, even undrafted free agents, you can get a running back in there. We saw last year James Robinson, a guy like Philip Lindsay. Those guys, come around I feel like every year, basically. An undrafted free agent running back is out there. So I wasn't the biggest fan of it, and Devontae Booker's not the worst. He's basically a guy that I described up here in the top right as decent at everything. And the thing he's probably the best at is pass blocking, which probably will help Daniel Jones when he's in there on third downs, which is a benefit. But in terms of just having the ball in his hands and being a ball carrier, he's nothing special. He's not going to break away any big runs. His longest career run, I think, is 43 yards here, as I listed. He's a career 4.0 yards per carry type guy. He's a decent receiver, but there's just no juice. There's no explosiveness to his game, and he's just like a boring bruiser type back. I mean, he's not like the biggest. He's not Brandon Jacobs, but I kind of compared him to Rashad Jennings, I think, on a previous recording I did. So, I mean, you can call him Rashad Jennings, I guess. And Rashad Jennings had his moments as a Giant, but for the most part, it was pretty underwhelming. But, for all running backs, it depends how the offensive line plays. It depends how much the passing game can open up the run game, and we'll find out about that. But if the Giants' offensive line is not playing well, then don't expect Devontae Booker to create, yards on his own. He needs a good offensive line and all that. So Saquon Barkley should be healthy. He got injured in like week 2. He's had a long time to recover. Saquon's a freak of nature, so I expect the Giants to use him a lot. And when he has to get a breather, you can put Devontae Booker in there, and he'll be okay. He's not going to be great, but he'll be okay. He's not going to kill you, so I like the pass blocking aspect, but this is probably my least favorite signing by a lot. If I can undo one signing from this free agency, it'd probably be this one, but it's not one to complain about too much because, as I said, at the 2-year, $6 million deal, they can get out of it after this year for basically and save $2.5 million. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but still, I wasn't a big fan of it, so I'll put it that way. Next, we have wide receiver John Ross, former Cincinnati Bengal and former top 10 pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, number 9 overall. So Ross is still 25 years old. He's a young guy, and he definitely needed a fresh start. He said it himself, and it was funny. At one point, I think in 2019 season, I think I wrote it down actually. Yeah, in 2019 season, I remember watching NFL Red Zone. He absolutely torched the Seahawks in the first week. He put up 7 catches, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then in week number 2, I think he had a garbage time touchdown against San Francisco, but it was 4 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. And then I think he got hurt again or kind of reverted back to that same guy he once was. And John Ross has not only battled injuries, but he's been inconsistent. He's had a lot of drops. Marvin Lewis benched him at one point when Marvin Lewis was still the head coach there. So he has had injuries from, AC joint sprain, groin strains, labrum tear, ACL tear, meniscus back in college. I mean, he's had a lot of injuries in his career. And I guess when you're that fast, it's a lot of wear and tear on your body. So I completely get it from that standpoint. But the contract for John Ross is only a $1.8 million cap hit. And for a guy that's 25 years old and once had the talent to get drafted in the top 10, I feel like why not take a shot? The Giants don't have, and this is before Kenny Golladay, even before that happened, the Giants did not have the best receiving core. It was not good before Kenny Golladay. So at that point, why not bring in a guy like John Ross? It just it made all the sense in the world. And I don't have the highest expectations for him, but we do know he's talented, and if he gets on the field and just has a few big plays for us, then that's fine. If he contributes 5 to 10 times during the 2021 season, that's a good return on investment for what you're paying this guy. He'll probably be behind Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, maybe even Dante Pettis. We'll find out how the depth chart's ordered, but he might get in there at some points, and if he can get behind the defense and Daniel Jones can give him a nice deep ball, then he might contribute a few times in 2021. So I feel like there was no reason not to take a shot here. Once again, I don't have the highest expectations, but this is a low-risk, high-reward type of move, the type of move that I like. I don't want the Giants to go out there and spend $5 million per year on a backup. They're spending less than $2 million here for a wide receiver in important positions, so I'm fine with this. If John Ross somehow has this career turnaround and does this complete 180 and everything is great for him, then maybe the Giants find themselves a very useful wide receiver 3, a guy like a Ted Ginn that the Panthers once had back in Dave Gettleman's days in Carolina, even when he played for the Saints. So maybe they'll find a guy like that. There's always a chance to have a useful deep threat. We saw Deshaun Jackson for many years kill us with Philadelphia. Not to say he'll be Deshaun Jackson, but there's always room on a football team for a guy that can beat you downfield, and John Ross can be that guy. So it's an exciting signing. Anytime you sign a guy that has a 4.2 240, as I said, it's exciting stuff, but I do expect him to start the year as a wide receiver 4 at most. We'll see how much he's worked in, but hopefully he gets an opportunity because this kind of reminds me of the Corey Coleman signing, and I felt like the Giants never gave Corey Coleman a fair chance after he tore his ACL. He played at the second half of 2018 when they signed him. He played pretty well when he was in there, had some nice kickoff returns, specifically the 49ers game on Monday Night Football in 2018. Then he tore his ACL. They cut him before 2020. I just want him to give John Ross a chance. If he sucks, he sucks, but give him a chance. I want to see what this guy has. You sign him. He's in the building. I feel like he's ready for this fresh start, so I want to see what he's made of. But I will say, low risk, high reward. It's a good sign. I gave it an A for the Giants. Next, we have quarterback Mike Glennon, possibly the tallest guy on the team at 6'7", 225. He's now 31 years old, and Mike Glennon's probably not known for the best things. He's probably known best for signing that large contract with the Bears. It was a $45 million deal for 3 years, I believe, with Chicago. He was cut after 1 year. He was on the Hard Knocks when the Raiders were on there with the Frank Caliendo thing. That was funny, but Mike Glennon did come in last year, and I will say, I actually forgot Mike Glennon was in the league. I had no idea he was on Jacksonville's roster. Jacksonville started the year with Gardner Minshew. Things looked pretty good at first. Then he got injured. Then they went to Jake Luton. And then they went to Mike Glennon. And when I got the alert on my phone, I was like, Mike Glennon? I thought he was out of the league. But he actually came in there and played pretty well for, I think it was 5 games. His stats were, over 1,000 yards, 7-5 touchdown interception ratio, 80 quarterback rating. He was not that bad. So on a 1-15 Jaguars roster where The Jaguars may have the worst tackles in the league with Jawan Taylor and Cam Robinson. Like, to play on that team and put up respectable numbers in 5 games, I was pretty impressed. I mean, you know what you're getting here with a guy like Glennon. I think Glennon's good at certain things. He has a pretty decent arm. He knows how to throw with anticipation. He stands in there and makes some tough throws, not afraid to get hit. But Mike Glennon has been known to make mistakes. He has very limited mobility. He does know how to maneuver a pocket. I will give him credit for that. But in terms of like making throws on the run and just running with the ball in general, he's not going to do that. So he is limited in a way. But the main thing is here, and I think every Giants fan has said this, he's an upgrade over Colt McCoy. That's the main part about it. Colt McCoy seemed like a good dude, but you can tell he was not really the best the Giants could have done at backup quarterback. And that's the only reason I gave this an A and not an A+. I mean, the contract's fantastic. They gave him a 1-year deal for a $1.3 million cap hit. But the one concern I have and why I didn't give it an A+ completely is something I've said in the past. And I know the Giants didn't have the cap space to do this, but I was in favor of signing a proven veteran backup quarterback, whether it was a Jacoby Brissett, who probably cost too much, a Tyrod Taylor type guy, even a Marcus Mariota. I was in favor of that because we still don't know who Daniel Jones is. I have all the hope in the world that he's good, but if he's not good, and let's just say Daniel Jones is not good and the Giants defense is like top 5 out of this world, you don't want to be held back because your quarterback is awful. I'm not saying Daniel Jones will be awful, but you have to prepare for something like that. It's just like the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears, for the past 3 years basically, have had a top 5 defense, but were held back because Mitch Trubisky was garbage. And not to say that a guy like Brissett or a guy like Mariota would have gotten you over the top, but you never know. You remember the Tennessee Titans a couple years ago. They benched Mariota, put in Tannehill, who was supposed to be like, this first-round bust at one point, or a guy that never lived up to his draft pick, and became a top 10 quarterback in football in basically a year. So you never know. But hopefully Daniel Jones plays in all 16 games. I know he's had injuries the past couple years. I think he's missed, what's Daniel Jones missed? Like 4 or 5 games in the past 2 years. So he hasn't been the most durable quarterback, but hopefully this year he is. Hopefully we don't have to see Mike Glennon. But in the event that we have to see Mike Glennon, I do believe he'll be better than Colt McCoy. He's capable, seems like a good dude, so he should be fine, but I'm definitely happier with him over Colt McCoy. Next, we have defensive end, and I hope I get this right. Ifeadi Odenigbo. I think I got that one, but he's 26 years old, defensive end, formerly with the Minnesota Vikings. He played in a 4-3 defense, and I know people have that concern of, well, can he play a 3-4? I always believe that these guys are professional athletes for a reason. If you give them a full offseason to learn a 3-4, he'll learn a 3-4. I mean, it's not, you can't move certain players to some positions. Like, you can't ask Vince Wilfork to play outside linebacker or Ndamukong Suh to play outside linebacker. I get that. But when you look at a guy like Odenigbo, he's 6'3", 258, pretty good movement skills. I think he'll be fine as a 5 technique, like a 3-4 defensive end. He'll be fine there to back up Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence. I don't think he'll be, like, inserted right away as the backup right behind those guys. He'll have to beat out guys like B.J. Hill, maybe even R.J. McIntosh as well. Maybe they draft somebody else. I think Austin Johnson's more of a nose tackle, so I'm pretty sure he's like cemented there. But as a defensive end, he probably has to beat out B.J. Hill and R.J. McIntosh. But I will say this might be one of my favorite signings. I mean, this guy is on a 1-year deal for a $2.5 million cap hit. And when you look at his advanced numbers, he's had a good amount of pressures, quarterback knockdowns, hurries. He's not great against the run. He's a better pass rusher than he is against the run, but in my opinion, I think people should feel the same way. Getting to the passer is more important in 2021's NFL than stopping the run at a high rate. So I think as a pass rusher, he'll get in there at some points on third downs. He'll make a difference. He'll hopefully get 4, 5, 6 sacks maybe and get in there and make a difference on the defensive line. So I know he went from 7 sacks in 2019 to 3.5, and he played more in 2020. So you might think the guy fell off. But when you look at his advanced numbers, his numbers did go up. So I know the sack number wasn't there, but sometimes sacks are lucky. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes a quarterback holds onto the ball for a while. Sometimes you run a stunt. Sometimes you're untouched, and you luck into a sack. So it's not like the guy played worse. His sack number just got worse. It is what it is. But he's a good player. He's very strong. That's like the number one thing that stood out when I was putting together his highlight tape. He is strong hands, knows how to bull rush guys. It's hard for offensive linemen to stop a guy like that. decent pass rushing moves. He's not going to hit you with like Dwight Freeney type, pass rushing moves. But at the same time, when you're that strong, I mean, it's hard for an offensive lineman to contain you for more than like 3 seconds. So I think he gets home eventually. Not the fastest guy, but still, he's good enough. And as a backup, as a depth piece, I'm very happy with this move. And he's a guy that, he played more, as I said, in 2020 because Everson Griffin, who's a really good defensive end there, had neck surgery, I believe. And then Everson Griffin was cut by the Vikings. So we got a lot more playing time in 2020. I'm sure the Vikings expected more of a breakout year from him. He played okay. He could have done better, but he was okay. Now the Giants get him on a 1-year discount type deal. He's still 26. So I like the signing a lot. I don't expect him to come in here and get 10 sacks, but he can impact this team kind of like Kyler Fackrell did. I know Fackrell was a starter at some points, but he can have that type of impact of like that 1-year deal, that low-key guy. Maybe like a Marcus Golden, but Marcus Golden is going to play a lot more than this guy will, but he'll have an impact when he's in there is what I'm trying to say. So I'm excited about this signing. Afadi Adenabo. I'm going to get it down at one point, but I'm trying to get this. But yes, Afadi Adenabo. I like this signing. I gave this one an A for the Giants. Next, we have a signing that probably caught me the most off guard this free agency for the Giants. It's Kyle Rudolph. And Rudolph was a guy that I forgot was released by Minnesota. So when I saw my phone and saw the Giants sign Kyle Rudolph, I was like, what the hell, Kyle Rudolph? So it was very surprising. I'm a person that has like the Twitter notifications on for the NFL update. So I guess it was one of those things where I don't know, I could have been at work or I could have been at home doing something, and I glanced at it and said, oh, okay, and then put it away and forgot about it. So, yeah, I forgot Kyle Rudolph was out there in free agency, but this one makes a lot of sense. It kind of has Jason Garrett written all over it. This is probably the closest thing you can get to Jason Witten. So, I mean, I don't expect him to play that role, but at the same time, Kyle Rudolph, you look at his numbers and people will ask, well, why the hell are the Giants signing this washed-up tight end? He went from 500 yards, 600 yards to 300 to 300, so he's, declining based on the numbers. But I will say, the Vikings drafted a tight end named Irv Smith, I think it was 2019, second round. And he's been implemented into the lineup more. Of course, he missed 4 games last year. He had a nice streak going of 16 games in a row every season for about 5 years. But he missed 4 games last year. And Irv Smith, who was the recent second round pick, they worked him in more. He was getting more involved in the passing game last year. And Kyle Rudolph was kind of phased out, honestly. And Kyle Rudolph was made more of a blocker. He wasn't in there all the time. As I said, he got hurt last year. So while you can look at the numbers and say he did fall off, there is some context there. He was just losing snaps to the guy in front of him, his heir apparent, if you will. So Kyle Rudolph is not the guy he was 5, 6, 7 years ago when he was like this crazy athletic, red zone guy that was going to grab almost 10 touchdowns per year for you. But at the same time, he's still a pretty good red zone option. He has terrific hands. That's the complete opposite of Evan Engram. I'll talk about that, by the way, because people talk about Evan Engram. I remember when this news broke, people were like, oh, Evan Engram, he's done. He's getting traded or he's getting cut. I don't look at it that way. I think Joe Judge, every time Joe Judge talks about Evan Engram, his eyes like light up. He's like, Evan Engram. Like he loves him for some reason. And I get it. He's an athletic tight end. He's exciting, Evan Engram. He's a mismatch in some cases. But he also caused the Giants a lot of harm last year. And I'm an Evan Engram supporter. I want him to do well. I wish the best for the guy. I do hope he's here next year. I do assume he'll be back for week 1 of 2021, but if he's not, then maybe Kyle Rudolph is the tight end one. We'll find out. But I will say, this type of signing probably has more to do with a Caden Smith or a Levine Toilolo. I do expect the Giants ultimately to probably keep 4 tight ends. It's not, something out of the realm of possibility. The Giants played a lot of 3 tight end sets last year, so this is what they do. I feel like they will carry 4 guys. We'll find out, that answer once training camp's over and the final 53 is announced. But I think Kyle Rudolph is still a pretty decent player. I know he's 31. You look at the contract, and when it first came out, it was like 2 years and $14 million, and people were like, whoa. Then it got down to 2 years and $12 million, and it still didn't look that good. Then the contract details came out, and it's honestly not that bad. His cap hit this year is basically $4.7 million. Really not that bad. Then next year, it is a $7.2 million cap hit, but they can cut him and basically save around $5 million. So it's really not that bad. If he sucks this year, you cut him next year. Yes, you take $2 million in dead cap, which sucks, but you can still cut him and save $5 million to spend elsewhere. So, I don't expect him to play the biggest role on this team, but you put him in a situation on third downs, he'll be a key Receiver on third downs, probably third and mediums, so third and shorts, he'll be in there sometimes, goal line situations. He could play a big role for this team. It depends how much the Giants want to put him in there. And, he's coming off an injury, as I said, but before that, he's played in 16 games for, 6 or 5 straight years. So he's had a good injury history of late. So, if he's in there a lot, he'll play a pretty decent-sized role. He's a pretty good run blocker. He's a better pass blocker, but he's a pretty good run blocker. Very reliable hands. He's not the most athletic guy, but he'll break some tackles sometimes. He's tough to bring down for the most part. So, it's not the greatest. I wish we signed him when he was like 27. I will say that. It sucks that he's 31 now, but still, he's 6'6", 265. Almost the tallest guy on the team. I guess Mike Glennon beat him out by 1 inch. I guess every inch counts in this matter. But Kyle Rudolph is he's a guy that should help this team. It depends how much he plays, but ultimately, based on the contract, it's not that bad. So I give the signing an A-. I mean, maybe I could have went a bit lower, but I'm being nice. But I'll give it an A-. Hopefully the Giants use him correctly. Hopefully Daniel Jones gives him some jump ball opportunities in the red zone, and hopefully they find a way to use him correctly in 2021. Next, we have inside linebacker Reggie Ragland, 27 years old, a former Super Bowl champion back with the 2019 Kansas City Chiefs. He went to Detroit last year, and he was okay. He wasn't that great, but I will come out and say there are limitations with a player like Reggie Ragland. Don't expect him to be great. He has limitations in pass coverage. He's not the fastest guy. He's not a sideline type of linebacker. He has his limitations. I will come out and say that. But he's good against the run. He takes on blocks very well. And the most important part is he has a missed tackle percentage lower than 4% each of the past 2 years. That's actually very impressive. He's one of the most sure tacklers in the NFL, honestly. So he doesn't miss many tackles. That's definitely great to see for your second inside linebacker. And I am calling him the second guy. I know fans have a lot of hopes for a guy like Tate Crowder. And I'm a big Tate Crowder guy. I told you guys when he was drafted, I'm a big Tate Crowder fan. But to expect him to come in here in year 2 and be the starter right away, I don't know. I think him and Reggie Ragland are going to have like an actual battle for that inside linebacker number 2 spot, and they might even draft somebody there as well. So we'll find out about that in April. But I think Reggie Ragland has a chance to be the starter next to Blake Martinez. It's not the best duo because Martinez is not the greatest guy in coverage, and neither is Ragland, obviously. So it's not the best thing, but Ragland's a decent player. Like, I think based on what the contract they gave him, which is why I gave it an A-, it's less than $1 million for a cap hit. Like, that's fantastic value for a 27-year-old, a former second-round pick. And I think at one point, Alabama, they might have started him over Reuben Foster. Like, that's how good he was in college, apparently. That's at least how Alabama saw him. And he had a very rough start to his career. I think he came into Buffalo Bills training camp when he was drafted, tore his ACL. Then the new coaching staff came in with Sean McDermott. They had Leslie Frazier as defensive coordinator. They didn't see him as a scheme fit, so he didn't even get a chance. He was demoted to third string, basically. Then he was traded to Kansas City for a 4th-round pick. Then he went to the Lions last year in free agency, got a good amount of playing time, but didn't do too much. And I feel like everyone that played under Matt Patricia just kind of got worse as a defensive player, honestly. It's pretty much the truth. Anyone that played under that guy in Detroit did not do any better than they were before. But Reggie Ragland's a decent player. He's really not that bad, I think, for a backup linebacker or an inside linebacker, number 2, as I said. It's not a bad option. He's an improvement over David Mayo, in my opinion. I really couldn't stand David Mayo anymore, so it's good to see that the Giants moved on there. So I'm okay with this signing, and the contract's what it did it for me. If they paid him more than that, I might have gave him a lower grade, but the contract's great. You know what you're getting here, a sure tackler, so it's a decent signing. Next, we have the biggest signing of them all, wide receiver Kenny Golladay, 27 years old, 6'4", 214 pounds. I made a video about this when the signing happened, so I'm not going to get too much into it here. I didn't go over the contract, though. That's the one thing I did not go over because those details were not out yet. So let's get into the contract real quick. So his cap hit this year, $4.6 million, which I guess is to fit everything in here. It makes sense, but that's crazy low. Then next year it's $21 million, and it's $21.4 in 2023, and then it's $21.4. So essentially, the Giants can get out of this contract after 2023 and only take about $7 million in dead cap, 6.8 to be exact, which is not that bad. Essentially, it's a 3-year deal if things go bad. I expect him to have a good Giants career. I can't predict his health, which is the crappy part about it. Of course, that's just a part of sports. But when he's on the field, I expect Kenny Golladay to be very productive for this team. I know there's people that want to harp on, he can't separate, he gets injured. And then there's the salty Washington football fans that just want to downplay how good he is. I mean, I get all of it. I completely get all of it. But this is a guy that, as I said in the other video, 2 seasons over 1,000 yards, almost had 1,200 yards back in 2019, 11 touchdowns, and he's had 2 healthy seasons. His rookie year had some hamstring issues. Then in 2020, he had the hamstring injury coming into the year, and it was a weird offseason. Not to give the guy excuses, but God knows what these players were doing in the offseason. He came in the season injured, and then he had the hip injury as well. So the guy had a rough 2020, of course, and he sat out longer than he probably should have. He might have been milking the clock in a way, or milking his time out. But I don't blame him. Like, why would you come back and play for a Lions team that was basically probably 6 games under 500 at that point? Like, there's no point in coming back and risking your body. I mean, this was a guy that was on the verge of getting paid a lot of money, whether it was via the franchise tag or via a contract from another team, aka the Giants. But this is a guy now making $18 million per year, basically. So I don't blame him for sitting out last year, basically. I know he was injured, but people say he took longer than he could have. I really don't care about that. So the Giants needed a wide receiver one. We all know that. It's the Giants desperately needed this. They needed a Kenny Golladay type of player. I think this is a perfect fit. This is a guy that can go downfield and make any type of catch possible. You guys saw the hype video I put out there probably about him, and he was making some of the most insane catches. I know he's not the best route runner, but he will make awesome contested catches. He'll make any catch over the middle of the field, not afraid to get hit. Good hands. Like, he's a very consistent receiver, uses his body well, can make a catch over anybody. Like, I think he's a good signing. I can't predict the health, of course. I can't predict how healthy he'll be, but when he's on the field, he'll be a good player for this team. And I think this was a very necessary signing for the Giants. I mean, if he, as I said last video, if he gets hurt and he never plays a game for the Giants, I'm not going to hate this the signing. It's going to be hypocritical because I'm looking at it now. This is a very smart move. The Giants needed this. Kenny wanted to be here. The Giants wanted Kenny. It seems to all work out. We just have to pray to God that the guy's healthy, and hopefully it works out. But I think it's a good signing. It was a big need for the Giants, so I'm happy with this. I gave it an A+ for the Giants. And lastly, we have cornerback Adoree Jackson, who I'm looking forward to talk about here. 25 years old, 5'11", 185. So I haven't talked about him yet in depth, and I think the first thing we'll go into here is his injury history. So that's like the number one thing people want to probably hear about. So in 2018, had a concussion, okay, fluke thing. 2019 had a foot sprain that basically caused him to miss a total of 6 games, I believe. Then in 2020, he missed a lot of time. He basically got injured ahead of Week 1. He had a knee patella sprain ahead of Week 1's game against the Broncos, was placed on the IR and missed 11 games. So not what you want to see there from a guy you just signed to a lot of money. But when he's healthy, and I spent a lot of time yesterday watching him, I made the highlight video, as you guys know. I spent a lot of my Sunday watching Adoree Jackson. He's very freaking good when he's healthy. Like, he's better in man coverage, which I guess the Giants played a lot of zone last year, but you have to realize they probably did a lot of zone last year because the Giants had no pass rush, and like, you can't really play much man coverage when your pass rush can't get there. So I feel like he kind of, he being Patrick Graham, was kind of forced to do that. So maybe we see more man coverage this year. But I'm one of those people that I'm realistic when comparing the Giants to the rest of the NFL. I wrote down here, the Giants might legitimately have a top 5 secondary in the NFL. Like, it's very possible to say that. I think it's very realistic. You have James Bradbury, who played like a top 5 corner last year. Adoree Jackson, who might be a top 5 cornerback 2 in football. I'm not saying he's top 5 overall, but a cornerback 2, he might be top 5 there. You add Xavier McKinney, who's hopefully healthy and gets better, Jabril Peppers, Logan Ryan. Like, secondary is very good. And I think secondaries in today's NFL, with the passing league that it is very important. So I'm excited about the secondary a lot. I give this signing an A. But there's no contract details. It's 3 years, $39 million, so there's not really much to go off of here. The guaranteed money was, let me bring it up real quick. He has a signing bonus of 13.5, average salary of 13, free agent in 2024. So, look, good for Adoree Jackson, good for his agent for getting all this money. I did think there was a chance at a 1-year deal, but he got a multi-year deal, so good for him. But when this guy played, he was really good. And I think if the Giants get him back and get him healthy, it's going to be a bargain of a deal. Like, if you can get a cornerback 2, 25 years old, playing at that type of level that he was playing back in 2018, even 2017, that's like a bargain. I mean, when you're paying for a really good outside corner, like James Bradbury's $15 million per year. This guy's making $13 million per year. And yeah, maybe it's a bit much for a cornerback 2, but when you have 2 lockdown corners it makes your defense so much better. It makes your linebackers better, especially makes your pass rush better. It'll make their nose tackle, Austin Johnson, whoever the hell it is, it'll make him better. It makes everybody better when you have 2 lockdown corners. And Darnay Holmes, I actually forgot about Darnay Holmes. Shame on me. I'm a big Darnay guy, but in the slot, he's going to be a great player as well, I think, one day. I think he has a chance to be a top 5 slot corner in football. Like, this Giants secondary is something to be excited about. I'm not one of those people that's unrealistic. I'm not out here saying Daniel Jones is a top 5 quarterback, but I do realistically believe the Giants might have a top 5 secondary in football. And when you look at a guy like Adoree Jackson, his makeup speed is the number one thing. His makeup speed's unbelievable. He will give out some nice hits here and there. I feel like he will miss some tackles, but he has missed tackles more in recent years. I feel like that could be due to the injury. But you look at his ball skills, like for a guy who's 5'11", he had really nice ball skills. He was high pointing the ball. I saw him where he was locking up Tyreek Hill at times. He was locking up DeAndre Hopkins at times. Like, he was going against some really good receivers and getting the better of them on multiple occasions. So like, this guy, when he's healthy, very good cornerback. I'm happy with this signing. Just like Kenny Golladay, has the chance to not work out because of the injury history, but you got to play that risk. It's the NFL. I mean, we're not signing like, a guy with a crazy injury history like a Robert Griffin or Darren McFadden. Like, we're out here signing a guy who unfortunately missed a lot of games last year. Yes, he missed some games in 2019, but before that he played back-to-back 16 games in a row. So, Kenny Golladay came off 16 games and 15 games. It's not like that guy has a lengthy injury history as well. So unfortunately, they got injured last year, but maybe the Giants got a discount in a way. And maybe if Kenny Golladay stayed healthy last year, he may not even hit, or may not have had even hit free agency. The Lions might have franchise tagged him if he stayed healthy. So I think the Giants may have lucked out in a way because these guys are getting injured. But, we'll find out if they stay healthy. But I do think if Adoree Jackson does stay healthy, he'll be a very good cornerback for this team. I love this signing. I gave it an A. Only reason I didn't give it an A+ is because of the injury history. And it's a good amount of money. I mean, it's not like the Giants got him for like a 1-year, $5 million deal. This is like, $13 million per year is a good amount. I'm sure they can get out of this thing after 2 years. It's probably not a full 3-year deal. They can probably get out after 2. But at the same time, it's a pretty big investment in a way. So we'll find out what happens with this, but I do like the signing a lot. So that'll do it for this video. Leave in the comments once again, what would you grade this free agency? I think my overall grade, honestly, is going to be an A. I can't overlook the Devontae Booker thing, and people might complain, like, how did you not give it an A-, or an A+, I meant to say. But I look at every move individually, and Devontae Booker was not a move that I liked. And the Giants, while free agency is not over yet, they also have a big hole at guard. I mean, to go into next year, I know the draft has to come up still, which is something we'll talk about in the coming weeks. But, to not fill a void of, I feel like free agency is a good place to fill your needs. The Giants have done a pretty good job at that for the most part. Cornerback 2, inside linebacker number 2, tight end, of course. Like, they're filling some needs here. But at the same time, they have a need at guard. Like, they really need a guard. I just want them to sign some type of veteran for a cheap contract, like a Reggie Ragland type of deal, under $1 million, hopefully. I don't care who it is. Just get a body in there that's capable of competing with Will Hernandez and Shane Lemieux, because if they go into next year and have Shane Lemieux, Will Hernandez, and, like, nobody behind them, that's a rough situation. And, like, I guess there's 2, maybe 3 things that can really derail the Giants next year. Number 1, the offensive line being not good. I mean, we have to see these young guys, the young puppies, as Glennon calls them, get better. So we'll find out about that. Number 2 is Daniel Jones not getting better and just kind of being like, how he was last year and not that good. Or number 3, Jason Garrett not getting better as a play caller. Those are like the 3 main things that can derail the Giants next year. So I don't want to see that. I feel very good about their defense. I'm very confident the Giants' defense will be good next year. Their offense is still a mystery, unfortunately, but I want them to give Daniel Jones as many weapons and as much protection as possible. And I feel like getting him a guard will definitely help. So that's why I went away from the A+. I've heard rumors about them talking to Trey Turner, but I don't know how legit those are. I have not seen anybody that's like an actual reporter come out and say that yet, so I guess we'll find out in the coming days, hopefully. But that'll do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It's a long-ass video, but, it's more of like a podcast in a way. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.